Good morning, everyone. Jimmy22 here, because if not, I'd be over there and then I wouldn't be here. And I'm going to talk to you guys about my recent viewing of Batman Ninja, which is the latest animated feature of Batman from the DC uh, film studios. I know they're from Warner Brothers, but it's the new Batman cartoon movie. And it's about Batman going into the past and meeting with his other friends and enemies in feudal Japan. You know, some. Okay. That being said, there's an elephant in this room. And I want to talk to you about the elephant in this room. I need to address it because it's not going away. It's going to be there and stare until it's finally recognized for what it is. So, before we go any further, I just want to set everybody's mind at ease and let you all know right now this movie is, albeit sometimes odd, especially for a Batman movie, better than Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, which had a very similar setup. Okay, that's out of the way. All right, let's start with the movie. And the movie starts with, fittingly enough, Batman fighting Gorilla Grodd at Arkham Asylum over a time machine or a Quake. It's a time machine. They call it Quake device or something, but it's a time machine. So there, he's fighting and he's got his support group there, and stuff happens. One thing leads to another, and so the machine's activated, and Batman goes back in time. He comes right in the middle of a feudal Japanese village. And you notice one of the first things you notice is he has a wanted poster. Now remember, he just got in here, but he has a wanted poster. And the first inkling that something is wrong, aside from the fact that he's wanted, is samurai who attack him with Joker faces. So yeah, it turns out that their emperor or their king. He wants Batman dead, and so Batman defeats them, and then he decides to run. And there's this one funny part, and there's this funny part where he throws his gas bomb because there's more enemies coming, and he gets out his grappling hook and he's like, no, I'm not going anywhere. So he just kind of puts it down and then slinks away. It's kind of... He reminded me of Dr. Kruger. No, not Dr. Kruger. There was a character that always went smoke bomb and just kind of like looked at you and then just waddled away. If you can remember the name of that character, I'm assuming it's a cartoon. Can you put it in the comments? Because this is going to bug me for a while. So anyways, he runs away and... he jumps over a wall and he ends up meeting the Joker, who is voiced by someone who does a good job, but it's such a weird voice. Like, his appearance threw me off for a few seconds because you don't see the Joker with a mustache very often or armor, but it was that voice. I think it was the same guy who did Natsu Dragneel from Fairy Tail, and he came out in One Piece too. But yeah, so they're talking, and the Joker introduces himself, and he's known as Demon King Joker. And we can all see why people in Japan would think the Joker's a demon. And the two get into a fight, and it's an anime-ish fight. They're moving so fast, there's shadows, and the Joker's throwing fans, and he's saying you're cutting down the trees, and Ivy's gonna be mad and stuff. All the wanted destruction. There's some back and forth. Okay, one of the first issues you're gonna notice in this movie is the dialogue is really weird. Because the Joker's talking and he's saying these, Ivy's gonna get mad or whatever, and it's like, okay, fine. But then Batman's like, don't blame me, you're the one who's throwing it. It's like, that's not a Batman type line. He wouldn't... I don't... Well... So they get into a fight, and reinforcements show up, and Batman gets away. There's this cool scene where it shows them running over the bridge, and then you go down and you see Batman kind of like hanging upside down like a bat. Oh, before I forget, there will be spoilers, and that's just because this movie needs to be talked about with spoilers. There's no way I'm going to have fun and talk about this movie without spoilers. So, this was just the first intro. So, it doesn't really spoil much other than what's going to happen like directly into it. But I just want you to all know right now, I am going to spoil this movie. But again, the visuals and the effects and it shouldn't ruin it for you, because this is not like a detective style Batman like Hush type scenario. You can kind of see what's going to happen. So then he's hanging and he meets up with Catwoman, and she explains how she got there 2 years before him, because apparently when the machine was sucking everybody in, it took him a few seconds more to get him than it did everybody else. And so it got him. It got her first, and then it got his rest of his Bat crew. And yeah, so she explains what's going on, and then she leads him to a cottage, and this man asks him, you want tea? And he's like, oh yes, this is black tea. Alfred! And this is not another one of those moments where it's like, it doesn't really seem like Batman, because Batman is very aware of his surroundings. And I mean, you could argue, well, time travel, maybe there's some kind of jet lag, but they never mentioned any of that before, so it's kind of weird to see Batman being surprised by two things in a row. But yeah, so Catwoman explains, he was inside the car when it happened, and the other, Robins were in there too. So they're in there, they're chilling out, they're talking, and there's an explosion, and it turns out that the Joker's men had found Batman, and they were attacking it, so Batman gets in his Batmobile, which was also in the Okay, this is one of the things that I know I shouldn't stop, but I need to go on a tangent, because I'm just going to be thinking about it the whole way through and nothing's going to get done. But one of the things that doesn't make sense is the Batmobile they found. Where is the rest of this technology? Because there was a lot of high-tech technology in the Arkham Asylum. Well, at least present age technology. And I know it's only been 2 years, but you would think that more stuff was going around, or they would notice some changes already. But yeah, it's just Alfred found the Batmobile, and that's it. Like, that's the only thing that's really, well, I don't know. It's just weird. Like, you would think it had more impacts. But anyways, so Batman gets in the Batmobile, takes out the guys who had like cannons, or it was a cannon. And so he takes them out, and he decides, okay, you know what, I'm going to take care of Joker, and then I'm going to take care of the rest of the Rogue Gallery, which Catwoman mentioned in a really weird scene that it would have felt in a video game, because it showed like a map, and it showed, oh, well, you have Deathstroke here, and you have Kingpin, Two-Face here, and Poison Ivy over here, and the Penguin, and they're all building their castles because they're all competing for, control, because I guess ancient Japan, feudalism, and they were always trying to gain control. And it's so weird. It was such a weird scene. Like, it belonged in a video game. So I wonder if this was meant to be a video game, and decided, well, this story is so cool, we can make it, we'll make it a full-on animated feature. But there's weird parts. Like, there's this other part too, where I'll point it out, where it really did seem like it belonged in a video game. So, back to the story. We have Batman launching a full frontal assault on the Joker's castle. Again, Batman launched a full frontal assault. Batman, the guy whose entire arsenal is based around fear and stealth. Like, yeah, he can fight and he's got some cool tech, but he never relies on it. He never just barges in. That being said, these scenes were freaking fantastic. Like, the Batmobile just looked amazing. And it had its so it's driving up. And you see some cool, like, they have some traps where the Batmobile can basically stop everything. And then it hits a point. Because the Joker says, activate the castle. And Harley Quinn's like, it's not done yet. And Joker's like, but that's why we built it. So they activate the castle, and these giant arms, mecha arms, come out, and they start, one by one, little by little, the castle destroys the Batmobile, and then so the Batmobile was like this long, the actual parts with the Batmobile, right? And then it breaks, and then it becomes a Batwing, and it's like this little itty bitty bit because it just shoots out, and then it gets impaled. And then he gets into the Batpod, and the Batpod is pretty awesome because the Batpod pops out and then rides on the arm, and it ends up, he ends up face to face with the Joker. And so the Joker's like, oh, well, you're here, and you can save me, or you can save this woman down here with her child. And so it starts to go down like that, and so Batman's like, well, save the child. So he goes down to save the child and the woman. It's Harley Quinn, and she sets him up with a fight against Bane. Sumo Bane, who just says one word. I think it's Yosh. I want to say Yosh, but he just said one word throughout their entire encounter. And it's weird seeing Bane as a lackey. I know in the Batman Forever he was a lackey, but in the comics he's not a lackey. So Batman activates his Bat pod, which transforms into a miniature mech. Because this is a Japanese anime, and of course you have to have mecha. I'm not even sure if I'm being sarcastic or not as I say that, because you might actually need to have mecha. Anyway, so the Bat Chopper manages to defeat Bane, but the hand comes down, and so it catches the suit. The suit catches it, and it's slowly being crushed, and it ejects Batman. He has to get out, and he escapes. So yeah, it was a complete loss, and it's because Batman went in all guns a-blazing, which Batman does not do. Batman is not an all guns a-blazing kind of guy. But anyways, he goes in guns a-blazing. And, he's licking his wounds, he's recovering. He finds out more about the fact that there's a prophecy. This might... okay. So this, in their defense, I know that the whole, prophecy, chosen one cliche has been overdone to the point where, well, it's a cliche, so once it's a cliche, it's been overdone. But at least this is the first time that I can recall in a Batman story where he's the prophesied savior. So that's something, So the Ninja Clan saves him, and he's there recovering. He gets a message from Robin's pet monkey, whose name Mochi, and he's dressed up, and they just had to give him a mascot. they anime. So he realizes it's Gorilla Grodd, and he goes to talk to Gorilla Grodd, who's like, "You want to take a bath?" And Batman doesn't want to take a bath with him. I don't think I would either. He was also drinking sake. I don't know if anybody here's tried sake, but it's not very good. I've heard you gotta heat it up, but it's not very good. It's the taste of wine, how it's sweet and it's got that real weird alcoholic taste at the end. Well, sake is nothing but that alcoholic-y taste at the end, which makes sense because it's rice wine, so it's the grapes with that. And Batman's like, no, so they decide to form an alliance, and Batman will be bait. So, Gorilla Grodd gets on a boat, and he invites the Joker over, and the Joker wants Batman. And so Batman reveals himself, and then the next thing you see is little sticks in the water, and the Joker and his men, they start shooting into it, and then Batman realizes that they knew that was going to happen, so he has the ninjas attack, and yeah, they defeat the Joker. And then Gorilla Grodd, he gets his piece of the machine, and he says, well, now that I'm sorry to betray you now, Batman, but I always think 2 steps ahead. And he puts on his mind control device. He's like, now, kill the Batman, and he tells that to the ninja clan of bats. Does not work. They're all just staring at him. He tries repeating it 2 or 3 times, and they're like, "No, we have trained our minds as well as our bodies." And it was funny, and then they get hit by mortar fire, and that which is from Two-Face, who's coming to rescue Gorilla Grodd, and while that's happening, you see Joker and Harley Quinn. They're up on the crow's nest, and they're like, "Yeah, we're gonna blow ourselves up." And then Batman like, "Get out of here, everyone! I need to save them." And they managed to blow everything up. And yeah, the screen just goes wide, and the next thing you see is Batman with being treated. and I mean, this would have been a really cool part for them to kind of like play with your expectations and make it look like Batman was dead. Because you knew the Joker wasn't dead. Because, again, he was the main antagonist in the beginning. Well, he's always the antagonist at the end. So you knew him and Harley Quinn aren't dead. You knew it. So you could have at least played with it and say Batman disappeared. But no, he's right there, and he goes on a talk, and he's like, "Oh, well, you know, I shouldn't have felt so defeated just because I lost my technology, and then I was betrayed by Grodd." And he looked at his fist. Again, he looked at his fist, and it's like power anime. That belongs in power anime. It's just weird to see it in the Batman movie. And then he starts going on a talk about how they need to learn the ways of the ninja. And this is another one of those scenes that makes me think this was meant to be a video game, because it kind of like it changes and it just shows little images, and you could see this as a training section on a video game. That's what it looked like. So,
have to wake up, Mars.
So after that Catwoman who betrayed Batman, and is the whole reason why Gorilla Grodd got his piece back, because she wanted to go to the future, because 2 years is a lot. And so they go to the future. No, they don't go to the future. What happens is Grodd reveals that he's going to conquer Japan. And around this time, you kind of see the big climax or surprise of the movie. And that is that... Deadshot, Deathstroke, Poison Ivy, the Penguin, I said it earlier, and Two-Face, along with the Joker, were all building castles. And so they go to meet for war in this thing called Hell Valley, Hell Place, something, Hellfield. And they get into a real quick skirmish. And while that's happening, Batman and the Robins are flying on gliders to meet them. And there's a quick scuffle between the robots, and it's okay. It's just, it was so weird. And the robots, they look like Deathstrokes looked like sort of like a Gundam in the 80s or in the 90s. No, the 80s. It looked like a Gundam. The Joker's was just a fat castle, and yeah, so they fought real briefly, and then it was revealed that that Grodd was actually mind controlling all the video. So, yeah, they were just puppets, and it makes sense. That part did make sense. It worked well because you realized that, okay, Grodd wanted control, and he wanted to. The reason why he built that thing at Arkham was because he wanted to get rid of the other supervillains and then end up taking control over Gotham City. And they also set up the whole helmet thing to remind people, yeah, he can control minds. And the final thing that made sense about this, and it didn't make sense, is that how are any of these other villains going to build mecha? Two-Face is a gangster. He's an intelligent gangster, but he's a gangster, and he doesn't. Can he really build mecha? Poison Ivy, who's a bio, she's good with plants. Can she build mecha? The Penguin. Okay, I'd argue he's the closest because he builds his umbrellas, or he gets a hand on his umbrella, so maybe he could understand it. Deathstroke, he's intelligent, but I don't think there's been very much in the way of showing him as engineering savvy. And then there's a Joker. he's not gonna build a mecha on his own. he's not. He's brilliant, and he's probably the smartest one out of all of them. Well, it's debatable between him and Deathstroke. But yeah, so then he has all the robots combined, and yeah, they combined. It's a huge, giant mecha now. It's big. And on its own, this thing would not have very much trouble taking over Japan. At all. At all. So, Grodd is happy because he's in control. And then smoke bombs. Lots of smoke bombs. Not a lot, but enough in where he is to, take him down. And so we learn that Harley Quinn and the Joker survived. Well, okay. So we learned they survived physically, as in their bodies, a while earlier, because what happened was Red Hood. Why Batman was working with Red Hood, I don't know, but Red Hood, whose head was in this real long, I don't know what they're called, but it was the same thing those guys had used in the beginning of Afro Samurai. He was wearing one of those, and he finds the Joker and Harley Quinn. And they look like the Joker and Harley Quinn. And he starts beating them. He's like, you better admit who you are. You better admit who you are. And they don't know who they are. And so, he started, smacking them around. And, Joker's like, please stop. But he didn't know his name was Joker. He's like, we're just foreigners. And so Batman shows up and he looks at them. He's like, no, this is not the Joker. This is not the Joker. I mean, he might have been, but he lost his memory in the explosion. And I guess what kind of sealed it, and what sealed it for me a little too, wasn't so much when Batman said that they don't have the craziness in their eyes. It's when Harley Quinn says, hey, the plants are blooming. The plants are blooming. And so she rushes, they both rush over, and they're looking at the plants that they planted. And so they're excited. And, Batman and Two-Face leave. And what it was is that the Joker with a plant, he hypnotized himself. So he hypnotized him. Well, he hypnotized Harley first, I'm assuming, and then he hypnotized himself. And what ended up happening was when they went down to check on the plants, it was the same plants that re-triggered their memory. So by smelling it, he actually he wasn't the Joker until he smelled that plant, and then he came back. This was a bit out of nowhere, but and so yeah, you see that after it's combined, the Joker's balloon, they pop it and he covers his face with the balloon, which had the face of the Joker, and they realize that, oh yeah, it's still in control, so they take control of the robot, and they also kick Gorilla Grodd and Catwoman out, and Batman and the group, they save them.
Wake up. You want me to get you Francesco?
Marcy, wake up, I'm on it. 9:30.
Huh?
What?
You want Francesco? What are you going to do?
I want a doctor to speak to me.
So yeah, Harley Quinn and Grodd are thrown to their death, and Batman and his wing posse save them. And they land them, and Catwoman thanks him, and Grodd says, well, Grodd doesn't really say anything. What happens is they're being attacked again But Robin's almost killed. But before Robin is killed, Grodd gets in the way. He takes a shot, and then he gives Robin a flute and says, "You can use this flute to take control of my monkey army." There's a flute to summon and control his monkey army. And so Robin does use this flute. And so Robin uses this flute, and what happens is the monkeys, millions of them, swarm all over the robot, and Joker's kind of like, "Oh, I can feel them on me," and they throw him up, but they don't really, they're kind of defenseless. And then his other monkey, Mokachi, gets on the flute with his girlfriend, and he starts playing again, and then the monkeys end up transforming. The monkeys end up transforming. The monkeys get together, and they're wearing gold armor, by the way. They get together and they take the shape of Mokachi, like a giant gold Mokachi, and it starts fighting with the robot, Joker's robot. And so they decide to use the robot to get the monkey to get Joker and Harley Quinn and all of them on, not Harley Quinn, and Catwoman and all of them onto the robot. But the thing is, the robot activates its flamethrower, and monkeys are weak against fire. Monkeys are weak against fire. I mean, they are very weak against fire, and so it's losing to the flamethrower, and then a bunch of the Bat Clan's bats, they come out of nowhere, and they fuse-ish with this monkey. And what ends up happening is it becomes a giant Batman. The monkey, which is short and stout, ends up growing and lengthening, and it becomes a giant Batman, and it can defend itself now with the cape. And so, it gets into another quick fight with the robot base, and Joker's armored castle takes it down, and I mean it damages enough, and then Batman and the rest of his group get in, and so they're, Batman, Robin fights against the Poison Ivy. I think Nightwing fights against the Penguin, and that's probably the biggest issue with this movie, is that you had such great villains like Deathstroke and Poison Ivy, and they don't really do much with them. They're just there to fill in the ranks. So they're getting into the fights, but the real, where your attention is paid to, it's Harley Quinn versus Catwoman. That was a pretty good fight. Harley Quinn should have died again, by the way, because at the end of that fight, she ends up getting her face slammed into a machine, and the machine blows up point blank. But then you see her a few minutes later, and she's fine. She's hurt and she's down, but she's fine. But the real fight is between the Joker and Batman, and that one's pretty cool because it's quick. It's very quick animation. It's very smooth, and Joker's talking throughout the entire fight, and Batman's not talking, and back and forth, real fast. And this was a fitting fight. It's weird to see a Joker that's capable of actually fighting. Even though I know he can, he just probably doesn't like to, or he just once Batman gets into close range and hits him, and he's done. He's like, okay, I'll go down. I'll take a nap. But they were fighting, and there was a point where it looked like Batman actually got stabbed. But then you learn that Batman learned the body replacement technique from Naruto, because then Joker keeps trying to slash him or cut him, and he it's just bats that look just like Batman, and again and again and again and again. And so there's this one point where Batman's going like this, and it's like, okay. At first I thought the body replacement was one thing, but now you're just saying, no, I'm getting this from Naruto. You're not crazy from thinking that I'm getting this from Naruto. And so yeah, he ends up defeating the Joker. And at first, Joker's, he's talking. He's like, you can't kill me. That's the problem with the hero. You can't kill me. And so Batman pushes him off, and the Joker's happy because, you know, Batman pushed him off. And he's falling, and then Joker, of course, doesn't fall and die because Batman throws these ropes and he catches them, and yeah. So that done, the group gathers. Robin says bye-bye to Mokachi and Mokachi's girlfriend. I'm going to call her Shikichi because I don't know what she's called. And, you know, they're like, okay, let's go. And they walk forward and the credits roll. And then... Okay, so I'm going to pause for a second here and apologize. I have a mentally retarded brother and he's making a lot of noise. And so that was Batman Ninja. Did I like it? Yes. Am I going to buy it? Not right away, but that's only because I know that things get cheaper. Would I recommend it? Yeah, because it's got gorgeous animation. This is a movie where everything is the animation. The whole point of watching it is the animation. Which is weird for a Batman movie. Because usually Batman movies, you watch it because you like Batman, you like the villains, you like the heroes, you like the story. It's always the events themselves. Whereas in this, it's how the events look. It's everything is appearance. Everything is purely aesthetic, and it's beautiful. And that is the biggest pro and con of this movie. If you want a deep, intellectual kind of hush type story, it's not really here. If you want to put something on that you could just listen to the background because it's entertaining on a side thing, like Batman the Killing Joke, which is a really good example because you don't have to watch it because there's not a lot of motion, but the dialogue is amazing. You should watch it. You shouldn't watch it if you're gonna take it too seriously. Don't watch it because, in all honesty, this is what Batman animation would be like if Deadpool was put in charge of making it. It's very random. It's very kind of out there. So yeah, goods, bads. I would recommend it, but not for everybody. And that's it for today. So Jimmy22 signing out.